If I was to describe what I do now, I'd say I'm a writer, a researcher, speaker. The thing I discovered when I was researching my book is that retirement is a whole-of-life approach. And so I think we've got to look at the big picture rather than the things that we do specifically. In my research, it really struck me that retirement is a whole-of-life thing. And so we need to take a whole-of-life approach. So my wife Margie and myself, we've deliberately set about living a healthy life. For instance, we go to the gym, do the workouts and things like that. It's an efficient way of getting the exercise you need. That's more than cardio. It helps your bones, it helps your muscle strength as well. I started writing when I was in my early 20s. I wrote a very short article because I didn't want to waste time on it. And just wrote this article, sent it in, it was published, and they even sent me a small check. I was a church pastor for most of my career, so most of my writing was about religion and Christianity. And then I became a magazine editor, and that meant I was writing editorials, doing a lot of writing. So writing's been part of my life. When I retired, that's what I wanted to do, write. Most of my writing's about retirement, preparing for retirement, and particularly for the website Retire Notes. Research, academically, I'm a sociologist, and I just enjoy research. And at the moment, I'm in a team where we're researching church pastors and retirement. On speaking, mostly it's about retirement, of course, and I've had a lot of invitations to speak, most states of Australia, even New Zealand, and just enjoy doing that. I'm also a wannabe photographer, and just before I retired, I bought a really good camera and lens, and every year since then, I've taken my digital photographs and put them in a photo book. I'm comparing year by year to see if I'm getting better. I just enjoy the challenge of getting the right photograph. Look, retirement is the best time of life because you just have the freedom to do the things you want to do.
Actually, that was clever, putting a spotlight on Bruce and what he's doing in retirement. He should be doing well. He wrote the book on it.
And he told me that when he was asked to write his book, he said no because all he knew was that he had to have enough money. Now he says he was glad he changed his mind because the research and interviews helped him prepare for his retirement.
And hearing him talk about what he's doing in retirement is a reminder that each of us crafts our own retirement.
Yeah, exactly. And in this program, we're emphasising that your retirement is your retirement. You can't live someone else's.
Well, I think that when you look at some of the glossy magazines and the couples walking off in the sunset in retirement, that sort of thing, I think you have to be aware that you've got to run your own race. It's got to be something meaningful for you because someone else's retirement is not your retirement. And so you've got to be logical, I suppose, and looking at that and saying, well, what makes me happy? What would make me happy in retirement is got to be, as I said, passion and purpose.
I really think this is a very important area to make your retirement unique and meaningful. This is really very, very crucial. So it is actually very important, now you've got this time before you, to actually plan what you want to do. Don't let one day after one day after one day pass by with nothing you have then, with no meaning behind it. So planning your time with what you want to do, what you want to enjoy, how you want to do it, I think is very crucial to make it very satisfying for your soul. Personally, I found my connection with God helped me to be someone that would be more thoughtful to person, to be more loving towards others, and to be more unselfish towards people. And it has given me also hope for the future. So I encourage others also to find meaning and purpose in their retirement.
Your retirement is about you. It's really about you. Professor Esther, she's obviously a woman of faith, and that will be part of her retirement. Whatever you have in your life, that will be part of your retirement and should be part of your retirement, because you get to craft your own retirement. That's such a good thing to think about, creating your own retirement, and it has to be about you, for you.
Having a bucket list gives you something to look forward to, but it's an individual list. So we're all going to have different things that we want to do or that we hope that we might get to do.
I think when it comes to deciding what happens on the bucket list, it probably is a combination of perhaps one year we do what you want to do and next year we do what you want to do, or there's some easy things that we can do now that are about me, but we'll make that up to you later on. There will also hopefully be many things there on that bucket list that are things that both people are really excited and passionate about wanting to do. So if the bucket list is only his bucket list and her bucket list, how about having our bucket list? The things that we want to do, that we're going to enjoy together, based on what we've enjoyed in life together, can be even based on what we used to do when we were dating together that we've hardly had time to do. Yeah, doing some of that, doing the stuff that has brought us closer over the years, is the stuff that probably will still bring us closer if we do it together now.
If we've learned anything, it's that planning is important to achieve the best retirement.
Back in the first program, we learned about listing our passions, our interests and priorities to help create our plan. Keep in mind that we're talking here about creating your bucket list, your passions, your interests and your priorities.
Exactly. It's about your retirement.
I think that in general we can learn that most people enjoy retirement. I think that not having a plan is probably, possibly going back to regret, is one of the things that people wish that they'd done, is that they'd started to plan earlier. So I think starting to plan earlier, we can learn from that. I think we can also learn about things like conditions of exit. You know, knowing that if you're forced out of a job or you're forced into a different situation than the one you intended, that can have long-term consequences. So having your own plan then just means you're putting that plan into action earlier. I think we know that mastery is a good predictor of retirement as well. So genuinely believing that the goals that you set are realistic and that you can achieve them are all things that help to predict good retirement adjustment.
I think freedom in retirement should not be seen or confused with lack of purpose or direction. Freedom doesn't mean, oh, well, I've just got the freedom to sit home and watch TV all day. That might be fine for the first week, but it'll get pretty boring and monotonous after a while. So I think it's the freedom to explore, the freedom to dream, the freedom to plan, the freedom to create, rather than the freedom to lie around and be lazy. There's not a lot of meaning and satisfaction in that. Satisfaction comes from doing things together, even if you don't have a lot of money, even if finances are tight. Walk up a hill simply because the hill is there. Jump on a bus, use public transport, jump on a train. There are a lot of things that can be done that actually don't cost very much. And it's about planning to do a lot of those things on a very regular basis so that retirement doesn't become mundane and monotonous.
I think it's always wise to chat to people who are about to retire or in retirement about what they find is good, what they find is not so good about retirement. You know, I don't think everyone's blinkered at looking at TV ads or media ads, thinking that everyone lives on an island or a beach, or, you know, it's warm every day and everything's a dream, because it's not really a dream. But I think that if they go out and ask people questions, have a look well before you retire. And as I said, it may be that you think, well, I'm not going to retire in the traditional sense.
Of course, there is a complication if you're part of a couple. Hopefully it's a delightful complication, but it does mean that the two of you need to work and plan together.
And at any stage of life, a couple's relationship must have give and take for it to be successful. When you're both retired, there can be more pressure because you're together so much of the time.
This will take some negotiating it's worth talking about before retirement to understand expectations, and in retirement to make practical steps to enhance your relationship.
But it is your retirement as a couple, and that can be exciting.
It involves, again, if you like, in a positive way, a confrontation. First of all, with yourself, to be able to kind of work out, so what's going on here? What is it that I'm wanting to achieve? What are my expectations? And how do I discuss that? How do I talk about that with my partner so that we understand that, you know, we may have a difference about our joint retirement, but my own personal needs may be a little bit different. So I think we're about saying, talk, sit down, openly, honestly, put your cards on the table, talk to each other about your expectations and be able to clarify that, and then get into negotiating, you know, and trying to understand the difference between what I want and what we want for retirement.
I think the way that the couple makes sure that the retirement is theirs is to make sure there's lots of communication, lots of dialogue, lots of planning together, dreaming together about it, and making sure that it is about both people and not about one person. The issues on the bucket list need to come from both people. The places that they may choose to visit need to be places that both people want to go to. And that's going to take some negotiation, and it may take a bit of compromise, but it needs to be about what we are doing as a team, as a couple, rather than one person tagging along in order to keep the other person happy.
So Gottman shared this, he wrote it in a book. Honour your wife's dream. Honour your wife's dream. He said, inside every woman is a dream. And you need to do that. Now that's part of what you need to do. You need to find out what each other's dreams are and do that. A couple of weeks ago, I was at a conference where President Obama was speaking. He shared this wisdom. He said, you know, if you want a great life in an organisation, there's two things you need. You need to be kind and you need to be useful. And I reckon that's pretty good for retirees as well. If you want to enrich your retirement years with each other, be kind to each other and be useful.
Margie and I faced this issue of having different interests. And so we had to sit down and think through, well, we want to do things together and we want to do things separately, because I'll sometimes go to my office and she'll sometimes go to her craft room. So we sat down and we worked out, okay, weekends and Wednesdays, they're our days when we do things together. Now, it may not be all day, but they're days set apart. And we have this rule that if one of us wants to do something that takes us away for, say, Wednesday, Thursday becomes our Wednesday or Tuesday becomes our Wednesday. So we've worked it out that way. But what we've found for us is that that works. We have our time when we do our own thing. We have our time when we do things together. This arrangement helps us stay connected and also have our own lives at the same time.
Retirement is often portrayed as a time of decline, but I know of many older people that actually enjoy retirement and find it very fulfilling. The focus is slightly a little bit different. You have more time to spend time in relationships with your family, and some of you might even have grandchildren, and you have time to spend with them. You would also have time for travel. And for some people, they have a passion of a particular hobby that they really love to do, but they're so busy with their work, they're not able to do it. But now they have time to do that as well. So I have observed that retirement is actually what you make of it. It's your life experiences often bring wisdom to you. and it will be more likely for you to know what are the joys that you believe you enjoy, and it will also show you what, from your experience, what are the things you don't like. And so therefore, you would not want to do it in your retirement.
If you're in a partnership, I think it needs to be a decision that you're making together. I think that otherwise you have people just pulling in different directions. So firstly, I think if you're in a partnership or a relationship of any sort, then getting both parties involved. I would take a look at the question about whether or not you want to continue to work and what that might look like, what you're going to be doing, where you're going to be doing it. And then I would say going through those different areas in the resources model. So, checking that you've got enough money and being realistic about that. So, for example, not just aiming at having a certain amount of money, the magic 1 million, but thinking instead of what are my regular outgoing expenses? Can I factor in CPI? Where do I like to spend my holidays? And all of that stuff really takes probably some professional financial advice. Keeping yourself well, so having a plan for exercise, diet, thinking about getting enough activity in a number of different ways, so strengths as well as cardio, all of those sort of things. Thinking about the valued relationships they have and where they're coming from. Are they coming from community groups? Are they coming from work-based groups? Are they coming from just, long-term friendships? If all the relationships are tied up at work, that can be problematic. So thinking broadly.
Think about the last week of your life. You're on your deathbed knowing that it's just about all over. What are you going to be glad that you did? If that is the rule by which we make decisions, then I think we're going to avoid some of the trivia, and we're going to grab all the opportunities to enjoy life and to milk it for all it's worth and to get everything out of every day. I like the expression that came from that movie years ago, carpe diem, seize the day. The idea of getting the very best that you can out of every day, knowing that there's only limited days.
Being realistic and having a good plan is much better than having a grandiose plan that you'll never be able to realise. So, think about simple things like where you plan to spend your holidays and where you'll be enjoying regular festive events. So all of those things will help to determine how much money you'll need, where you'll be living and who you'll be doing it with. So it's very much a partnership, I think, and the experience needs to be one that's genuinely shared. But thinking about those 6 different areas and planning in all of those, we know will help to improve overall retirement adjustment.
The 6 different areas that bring balance to life are finances, health, social, emotional, motivational, and the cognitive.
And together this brings balance, a whole of life approach for your retirement.
This is a time of life when you can give back, and it can start with family. At this stage of life, you may have grandchildren. You can take the time to get to know them, connect with them.
And as they say, you can give them back and go home when you've had enough. But there's also research that says that grandparents can have a powerful influence on the lives of grandchildren, particularly if they're in a troubled home.
And that's true. But family is only the beginning. There's also the possibility of giving back to the community, and that can lead to a hugely satisfying life.
Your retirement is as open as you want it to be. It's what you make it. That's the good thing about it.
One of the things I think is important is to actually go and visit the children and grandchildren rather than expecting them to come to you all the time. In my generation, and my father particularly, always expected us. He never came to see us or see his grandchildren. He only saw us when we went home because he felt that that was the correct way. The children need to come home. I think that's very outdated, and I think it's very unhelpful thinking. Retirees are free to travel, and they should feel that it's totally fine for them to go and negotiate with their children. When can we come and see you? When can we get some free accommodation? And when can we spend some time with you, and how much time is going to be not too much for you, and have very open, honest communication about that, so that we as retirees don't feel that we're outstaying our welcome and that our children don't wish we would go a little bit sooner, by just having an open and honest conversation about that.
Life experience often brings wisdom, and we are aware what brings joy to us and what does not bring joy to us. So in retirement, I would actually try and use my wisdom to do the things that I really enjoy. I believe also the joy comes from helping people. The people that I have talked to have said their lives are more fulfilling when they give their service to other people, or they volunteer to go and visit homes, and they volunteer to go into residential aged care facilities to talk to people. They volunteer in small amounts, working with the institution what they can do. So I think you will go away and feel that you have contributed if you actually give your time as well to service and to society.
Yeah, so we do find people wanting to get more involved with volunteering, but this again, it's one of those things that if they haven't done it pre-retirement, they find it difficult to break into. So maybe just even making contact with community groups that they want to be a part of in retirement, or volunteering now while they're still working. And this is being done by a lot of the big organisations, of course, where they have pro bono work, or people spend a day a month working with a volunteer organisation that they want to connect with. So starting to think about the groups that you want to align yourself to and start working with them before you retire. Don't wait until then.
One of the important things about having a satisfying and contented life is being engaged with others and giving back. So being involved with volunteering activities, getting out there, adding the value of what you have learned and experienced through your life, putting that value onto or into somebody else's life is probably the best thing you can do.
Retirement brings you to a point in your life when you are in control of what you do. You can take charge of your life. It's true, there could be limitations. Health and finance come to mind, but this is your retirement.
This is a great time of life if you can think and plan creatively. What will you do to make this time of life meaningful? How will you spend it? What kind of adventures will you get up to?
That's all in your hands. It's your retirement.
I've been so lucky to meet so many wonderful people in their so-called retirement doing amazing things. There was a couple from Mackay in Queensland, and they said their sons actually found them a job. They said, "Mum and Dad, get off the couch, you've got to do something." And they found them a great job. It wasn't volunteering, they got paid something out on a huge station west of Mackay in Queensland. And she was an ex-teacher, so she tutored the children, and he was a bus driver, but he was a handyman as well. So for 6 months or 3 months, whatever it was of the year, they went out and worked on these stations, and they were so good at it and so successful. Their neighbours, 3 hours down the road, wanted to poach them.
It's not the end of life. It might be the last stage, as you've described it, but it is a stage of opportunity. It's a stage of having time to do those things that you did not have time to do before, and possibly the means, hopefully the means, to do those things. It is a stage of life that gives us the opportunity to reconnect with others, to reconnect with family and friends.
What are the secrets to living a life to the full? And I often ask more mature people than I, what are some of their insights? And look, I think that there are different things for different people, but I always do come back to the idea that the science indicates that there are those 5 things that we need. We need those positive emotions to do those things that bring us joy. We need that sense of engagement. You know, that having those hobbies, you know, if it's no longer our work that engages us, having at least hobbies that we enjoy doing just for the sake of doing it, that really involve play, if you like. We need to be more playful. And then having that sense of achievement and mastery, you know, so things that we accomplish, those positive relationships just keep coming back. But then once again, that having an overall sense of meaning to our life. That is derived by having that sense that you belong to and that you contribute to something bigger than yourself.
Squeeze everything out of life that you can. It's your last chance. Don't spend it pottering around the house all day watching TV.
I grew up in a little town called Port Wakefield in South Australia. It's about an hour's drive north of Adelaide, the state's capital. Now, little town, it had about 500 people. And I was actually born in a hospital in the same street I lived in for my first 20 years. Now, the little hospital's no longer there. In fact, it closed down just after I was born. Whenever I go back to Port Wakefield, I go back to our old house. I don't know who lives there now, and I look at it, there are no fruit trees down the side of the house anymore. I kind of miss that. It seems like it's not our house because of that. Here's where I went to school. Little primary school. I mean, it's momentous in my life because that's where I found my first love. That was the first grade teacher. There was this little complication. She was married to the headmaster, but I knew our love would be bigger than that. I left school when I turned 15 and went fishing. That sounds like fun, but my father was a commercial fisherman. He was a fifth-generation fisherman, so it was kind of natural that I went fishing. And so that was my life for 5 years. And it really wasn't until I had a calling, I call it a calling to pastoral ministry, that I actually left Port Wakefield. But it's still my home. And the point I really want to make is that nobody else could have that beginning to their life that I have. It's just impossible. I mean, even if you grow up in the same house with someone, even if you're a twin, your growing up is different in several ways. And the big thing about retirement is your retirement, my retirement, needs to be different to everybody else's because it's about you. It's about you. Just like your beginning was about you, your ending needs to be about you as well.
You are unique. That's the point of this episode. Your retirement should be uniquely yours. We hope you've got that message.
Better yet, we hope you're able to plan your retirement so that it's a fulfilling and rewarding time of life for you.
And we've come to the end of this series of programs. Hopefully they've helped you as you think of your retirement.
With some thought and planning, retirement can be one of the most fulfilling times of your life.
And that's what we want for you.